I have my signed copy from you when I was there July 20th through July 23rd. Well, you know what? I'm going to do this on air when we start. So I'll use that as my introduction because I was so excited. Now I'll wait till we start.
Well, perfect. And I just started the live stream to Facebook, so everybody should be able to tune in from there. And I'll take this moment just to introduce. It's 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening. That means it's time for the Cynthia Manion Show. And we just wanted to say that there's also a link if you want to join into the Zoom, if you're watching this on Facebook or another platform, and you want to join us here in this intimate Zoom room, you can do so in the link and you'll just sign up and it'll send you an email and you can hop right in. But it's my pleasure tonight to introduce Cynthia Manion. And she is the one and only. You can see behind her head, it's a wonderful life coach. And that was one of Cynthia's projects. And she has a number of projects that it's been such a pleasure to be a part of and help her grow. We just made we incorporated Cynthia Manion this week. I wanted to throw that out there because I think it's really amazing. And so with all of the books that you're writing, the book that's coming out, Savannah Seas, and which you'll be talking about more, it's coming out soon. And then all of these amazing guests like Don Green, who I'll let you introduce tonight. But you have the most wonderful conversations. They really lift all of us up and people in your community, people who know you, and they resonate. They hit home and they show us how we can do our little part to make the world a better place. So without further ado, I'll bring Cynthia to the main stage. Cynthia Manion.
Thank you. And guess what? If you listen to this man, Don Green, who I had the privilege to meet last year in LA, and then again in his home in Wise, Virginia, where he has done all the principles from the Napoleon Hill, and he's probably Napoleon Hill II. He is so amazing. And I really, really wish that I had grasped all of the principles long time ago. Now I've been using them, but wait until you see what you could be doing, because guess what? You can be anything you want to be. You have to give what you need to give, just have a definition of purpose. You have to know your purpose. Know your purpose. And Don's going to speak to that. But before we get to that, I just got this book from him signed when I was there in Virginia, in Wise, Virginia, Napoleon Hill Secret, Don M. Green. And look at this. For Cynthia, I'm so happy you could be with us. Don M. Green, CEO, 7/20/2023. So I am so excited. And Don has written a lot of books and supported a lot of people in a lot of books. And another one I particularly like is Napoleon Hill, My Mentor. And Don's going to speak to that. And I want to welcome Jay Skinner, who is a big Napoleon Hill fan. Hello, Jay Skinner. You have everything in life. However, you can have everything that you really want. Napoleon's Hill secret will show you how. Guess what? It's not really a secret. If you live the life that Don Green has lived, it's basic. It's in all the religions. It's about being a good person. Does it sound impossible? No. Are there any tricks? No tricks. But it's a method, just like everything is a method. And you have to invest time and energy. There is no secret pill. And you're not going to get it tomorrow. But each step takes you forward and forward, and you will get there. No prescription, no coupons, nothing to do. No one will call you at home. All you have to do is apply the principles that are in Think and Grow Rich. Without further ado, here's Don Green. And actually, I would love you to start, Don, with just a moment about principle number 1. Because so many people, it seems to me, like have lost their way during this whole time. And so many people are having so many changes in their life. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Jobs are changing. The whole world's changing. A job that you had, you may not have anymore. It's just a little crazy. And I think that very first principle just figuring out what your definite purpose is something you could chat with us for a moment first.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. When Think and Grow Rich is published in 1937, it sold out in a matter of weeks. It was published again. The first one was March, and then it was published in May, and then later in the year, it's published 3 times. And it's odd when you said, "What do you want?" In the original 1937 copy, which you have, that's a copy of Napoleon Hill's book, his personal book, which we have in our archives, and you've seen these books. When they published the 38 at the top of the page, it added a few words which most people don't notice. It says, "What do you want?" It was in the first one. That's all it was added to. What do you want? And when you figure out what you want, I've probably read too much, but in Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, he's locked up in a Nazi concentration camp. About everybody died, but he made it. And he said, once you figured out why you wanted to do something other, you could discover the how. And that's important. It's not only just having a desire. He referred to it as a burning desire. It's something other that you're going to commit to. You don't know how you're going to do it, but you have a passion so strong. Is the next thing is making plans. And Hill tells us, when you once made plans, don't wait for they're perfect. Start from where you are. He says that's a good portion of doing it. Most people never start. He asked that in an audio I heard. He asked the audience, how many times does the average person quit before they start? And they hollered, before they give up, and they holler 1, 2, 3, 5. No, he said the average is some 1. Most people don't even start. They're waiting for everything's perfect. They're stopped by all them fears of criticism and fear of failure and all this other stuff. So they're waiting for things to perfect. They're never perfect. I mean, Cynthia, if we was going to leave here in your new car and we was going to take off to Florida, and we go down through Tennessee and hit the interstate and go across the mountain, if it's in the wintertime, often that road's blocked. I've been there many times. Well, you say, well, the road's blocked, we just go back home. No, we go back to the foot of the mountain, we find another route. And that's the same thing in life. It doesn't work. We seek help from other people. That's where the mastermind comes in. We seek other people, and most people are successful, are willing to help other people. But the main thing is, it's how bad do we want it? As my friend Zig Ziglar said at a fundraiser one time, he said, it all in life comes down, how bad do you want it? Most people are not willing to pay the price. The quote on my wall back or somewhere, another was from Thomas Jefferson, said, and Brian Tracy used on the back of the book, saddest day in a person's life when they sit down and start figuring how they can have something for nothing. There is no such thing. And when you do, you've lost before you get started. And he just laid principles out. I said, if you was really, really, really busy, go to the 2nd chapter under desire, left side of the page, and he gives you steps to riches. And the first one is what do you want, your definite purpose. And then he tells you, what do you intend to give to entitle you to what you're wanting. If you're wanting some money, you're going to have to sell something, goods or services. There's no such thing as money for nothing. And then you have to make plans and you have to implement them. And then the other qualities kick in, like persistence. You don't quit because things is rough. You simply don't look at things as failures as a reason to quit. You look at a failure as a lesson learned. If that didn't work, but it means I'm going to try something else. So when people have failures and they quit, then yeah, they're a failure. But if you look at them, I learned from this one. Now I'm gonna have to get a hold of Cynthia, and I'm going to call Eric. He knows about this market bit. I'm gonna have to get some help. But you don't quit if you really, truly, truly want it. And I said, I don't care what it is. If you go to bed thinking about something, you wake up thinking about it, and you think about it a day, and you do something about it, one step at a time. You might not arrive at the time you sit down and figured it in your goals. That doesn't mean you fail. Sometimes it takes longer, like going back to school and getting a degree, and maybe you got interrupted on your job, lost your job, and you couldn't pay tuition. It might take you 2 years longer. But the thing it is, you didn't give up on your dream. It took long. Sometimes it takes longer to do it. And I've had all kinds of examples like that. One, you saw the historical marker I had put up in the 90s. I just seen them things. George Washington slept here. Here's he crossed the Potomac and this, all that. I said, let's put one up in Napoleon Hill. And I wrote them, and they basically wrote back and told me I was crazy, that they didn't put them up to people that wrote just because they wrote books, and you had to be dead 50 years. None of that applied. So I guess I was supposed to quit. No, I'd had some dealings and investments with one of the senators, United States senators. I contacted him. He told me who to call. I got a list of the people that made those decisions at Historical Society, and I got a hold of him. And basically, it was I'd call one, and he'd say, "Yeah, we'll look at that," which means no. And the next one would say something similar. Well, we'll bring it up to next meeting, which is no. And I finally got a hold of a guy from Culpeper, Virginia. He said, "Man, I read that book. You don't have to do nothing." He said, I read that book, changed my life. I'll bring it up to next meeting. He told me when it was. He got in touch. He said, "Yep." He said, "I got it approved, but said have wait till next fiscal year because we run out, our budget's over and we don't have the money." I said, "Just go ahead and put it up and I'll write you a check." I said, I've had enough. And there were several things like I got it put up. I called the state highway department and I told them I would like for them to sow grass because it's in an area that had been strip mined, if you know what I mean. They took all the topsoil out. It wasn't nothing there but weeds. And they called me back and said, "Can't sow grass, so there's no topsoil there." So my brother-in-law owns a landscaping company. I called him and I told him to spread rich dirt 100 yards on each side of the sign. And he did. Then I called the highway department back and told them to go down and look at it to sow their grass. And they did. So I had another instance like that. So one day I get a call at the bank and this guy says, it's Mr. Turner. He said, "Don, I'm retired from the highway department," and said, "I'd like you to come to my dinner. We're giving me a dinner." I'm thinking, why in the world does he want me to come? But, I said, okay. Told me when it was. I showed up and he gives me a plaque. It's on the wall here somewhere for contributions I've done. But he said, he introduced me. He said, "I want to introduce you to Don Green. The boy don't know what the word no means." So that kind of got stuck to me. So Jim Stovall, when he came down here, he heard about that. And I'd asked him 3 years in a row, he gets $50,000 for a presentation. But we connected. It's another story. But we connected because his mentor delivered Hill's eulogy. That's another story for you. And so I'd asked him, and he is in movies. And it's the third year. And he said, "Next year, you put it down. I will not obligate myself and I'll be there." So when I introduced him, he got up to speak. He said, "Before I get to give you my presentation, I got to tell you something about Don Green. You probably don't know. The boy don't know what the word no means." And he told him, I'd asked him 3 times. But it was well worth it because he done free. He stayed over an extra day and we reminisce. And he's given me 7 books I've published. He gives us all the royalties from it. And the royalties goes into a scholarship he set up here in his mother's name. I've never given him a nickel, but I've published 7 books. One I did with him, The Gift of Giving. And then he wrote about me in some of the other books. So I guess everything in life comes down to how bad you want it. And if you ain't enjoying doing it, don't do it no more. Can you imagine how many people hate your work? Man, I hate my man weekends. I hate to go in, but don't do it. I mean, get out and pick up pop balls, do anything. I mean, we don't have slaves no more. They have to, they sold slaves, but we don't have slaves no more. You got freedom of choice, which is so it sets us apart from the animals. We have a little old book that sold 1 million copies. It's Your Greatest Power, P-O-W-E-R. And it's a power of choice. It's only 96 pages long, and we've sold over 1 million copies of it. It's by a psychologist, J. Martin Cohee. And that's all it's about. We are where we are today, and we'll be where we are tomorrow, the simple choices we made, good ones and bad ones. If we make too many bad ones, we'll end up in one of the prisons where they where they'll put your food on the door and cut the lights off at a certain time and give you 3 minutes to take a shower and 30 minutes out in the exercise yard for one word. And they forgot what the word discipline meant. They made bad choices. They couldn't discipline themselves, and they end up in a place where somebody does all the discipline for them. Sad.
What a waste of a life and a human being, and some little seed of pearl that they have inside that they're not giving to the world. They're robbing the world of some piece that God gave them to do while they're here on earth.
Well, and as they get older, they become cynics or what you want to call them. They'll say they'll come up with such things like rich people don't pay enough taxes. I think 40% is enough. That's not the problem in this country, and I'm not no political animal, but half the people in this country don't pay no taxes at all, but nobody discusses that. Now that's a problem. It's like a man and a woman married, they got 4 kids, and all the kids go off and marry and bring all the kids back in, and just one in the family working. There's too many people taking out of the basket, not enough people putting in. And that is a problem. But gosh, the opportunities in this country. I mean, I guess when I was young, I guess $1.15 an hour, they called me hot shot because I mean, you call it dream, but I knew them things. I mean, I knew the gold Rolex, the black Mercedes, and $1 million when I was making $1.15 an hour because I read them books and I believed every word of it. I believed it, and I kept on reading it and reading it and reading it. Not only did I read Hill, but I've tried to read everything he ever mentioned. Like John Dewey wrote a book on how to think. Of course, Ralph Waldo Emerson, you know, he read all of Orson Swett Martin's books, who was a terrific writer. He had 2 degrees from one at Yale, I think, but he had a medical degree, doctor, and a law degree. And he wrote Every Man a King, Pushes to the Front, and so forth. But what he didn't do that Hill did, he didn't get out and promote them like Hill did. Hill would go anywhere for a few bucks, travel all over the country. One of the little books here in the office in gosh, I believe it's early 50s. He was in 84 different towns in 1 year. And this is basically driving by car. So he'd go anywhere basically for $100. And sometimes I think he didn't get that. But that was a difference in him. And the difference was he read Samuel Smiles, who wrote a book, Self-Help Psychology, published in 1859. He's a British or a Scotch. And I think that's his first self-help book. It was called Self-Help Psychology. It's in Old English, and I've read it a few times, been a while, and it's like Hill did, because Hill read it, Orson Swett Martin read it. So they was influenced by it. But what the self-help did, he wrote about people that overcome adversity. The difference was he didn't go out and interview them in person. He just wrote the stories. And some of them was Isaac Watt was one of them. The guy did the steam engine. That's one I remember. And then another guy did the famous china that's used in King and Queen used in England. He worked like 20 years perfecting this some outstanding china. Story of him in there and other people, but it's people that stuck with something other for a long time till they accomplished what they was looking for. But he read and read and read, and I mean Edna Wilcox, Wallace Whittles, over and over and over, you know, that little poem, I bargained life for a penny and so forth, that comes from a guy by the name of Rittenhouse, and it wasn't unusual back then that they didn't give the author credit for it, but you know, you could track it down. That's some things changed. You know, they always used the male pronoun he. You know, that you think she's didn't exist. I don't know how they figured we got here without them, but
right.
That was just a common practice back in that time. And you know, I think it's important to note that he changed over a period of time. You know, the little book I'm editing, it's I don't think the title gets changed. It's Napoleon Hill's Miracles of Life, and he never got around to publishing it. And I found it. It's not a real large book, but it's never been edited. He started editing it and wrote over it and marked some stuff out. And also, I got a contract on it, offer if I would edit it and write an introduction, which I finished and did.
Wow.
So try to get it to him tomorrow. But he changed, you know, And these people call me and say, Cynthia, they say, well, I read Think and Grow Rich, it's not about money. Well, they didn't get the message very good. Because if you'll look at your copy, look what it says up on the top of it. For men and women who resent poverty. They dropped that off. He's written in the middle of the Depression. They dropped that off later and they said 2.5 million copies sold, 5 million copies sold, 10 million copies sold. So I went back to the original. Cover. But he said he wrote it for the millions of men and women who were living in poverty and in fear of poverty. And that's what I will talk about in class tomorrow, about trying to teach young people how to visualize, have a vision to seeing where they want to go rather than where they are. And my first quote is from Helen Keller. She said, worse than being blind and not having sight was having sight and having no vision. Which says a tremendous lot. Well, Jim Stovall's book, he's done 60 some books. His first one was, you don't have to be blind to see. Vision.
So how did you get your vision? You tell us a little bit about how you were like a wee boy and your parents incited this. The book was just laying around.
No, we have, you kidding? We didn't have a television that was a pretty good size. We didn't have running water in the house. We didn't have no books. We had a Bible, but we did have a good library. My mother tell me, says, if you don't quit reading, you're going to go blind. And I took a chainsaw and I may rub my eyes a few times, but I read and I read and I read. And I know she was 90 years old before she passed away. And she said, Dawn, somebody told me you'd give away thousands of books. And I said, yep, guess I have. She said, you guess some kids read them? I said, Mom, I don't know, but this kid read them. It made all the difference in the world. That's no reason I'm not calling around the coal mines. Because at an early age, I figured out from reading those books that people can make a living with their hands. There's nothing wrong with it. Somebody mows my grass, somebody's got to fix my car, somebody got my permit. And I admire those people because I can almost do nothing. But the people that make good money, they're the ones that's using their minds. And that's what I determined that I was going to learn, and I was going to learn, and I was going to learn. And I never really had any doubts. I was 41 before I made bank president. I worked 8 years in a bank before I made president of a bank, and I did that for 18 years. But it was just everything was just outstanding. All the prior jobs I had, all of them, I only applied for one job. People contacted me due to their reputation. I can remember 1975, I was managing a finance office in Kingsport, Tennessee, and I got a call from this gentleman that started a bank. He's only 29 years old. And he's a friend today and a donor and supporter, and he's filthy rich. He's private. He kicked me if you heard me say that. But he wanted me to come over and interview for it's about an hour and 20 minutes away, something, hour and a half. And I told him I could come, but I'd have to be on the weekend. You can't come through the week. I said, no, Jim. I said, these people paid my tuition for me to go to night school, and I've got my degree, and now I'm working on setting up to get my master's degree. And I said, I'm really going to go places with them because I run the best office they've got. And he said, can you come on the weekend? Yeah, you tell me. So I went over on the weekend, and I remember, and his dad was a coal miner also from Grundy, Virginia, not far from here, burned something away. But anyway, here's what he told me. He read the same books too, and he's a terrific reader. He reads and reads and reads. He said, Don, if you do a little extra one day, it won't matter. You do it for a week, probably nobody will notice it. But I promise you, if you'll work harder than all those other people around you, one of these days you're going to be the success most of the world only dreams about. That was June 1975, 48 years ago. I remember it as good as it was 10 minutes ago, because it stuck in my mind. And I always had that on my mind, that I knew that. I don't mean to boast or anything, but I knew I was going places. I knew as good as anything. I took a bank, it was failing. I had so much confidence. They thought in a few months they had lost $1.5 million. As a bank only had $35,000. Can you imagine a bank with $35,000? Well, they was a friend of Warner. John Warner was married to Liz Taylor, and he told them, they were big supporters of his party. They said, just keep a positive balance. We got so many banks to close. I promise you it won't get closed as long as you got a positive balance. And so then lost that $1 First year I made $90,000. They knew I could walk on water. And then next year, I think it went to 300 and 500 and 800 or something other than was making more than me. And I would have asked for a Rolls Royce, they'd give it to me. I didn't have to ask for it, but it was fun. It was just fun. I enjoyed it. And then I've been there 18 years, and the old guys, I had 92,000 shares of stock, and the old guys, they were living in Florida, they were retired, and they've been and the way they get the most of their money is sell it as a whole. And they said, couldn't find a buyer. I said, yeah, because I had the job with the Napoleon Hill Foundation anytime I wanted it, and knew I wasn't going to take no cut and pay. So I found a couple of people, and one of them was interested in selling to them, and we negotiated a good offer. And I told all our stockholders, I am selling all my stock. The deal is they will give the same price to everybody. If you can take it or not, I'm not giving you advice. But if you don't take it, don't come back to me if something happens to the stock. I said, I think it's a terrific offer, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to go work for another bank. I have another job lined up with the foundation, and that's what we did. And I was happy. I started one day. I had a dry cleaning business. I had a whole bunch of businesses, but one was a dry cleaning business. And I knew when I built a dry cleaning business, I was in real estate and a bunch of other things, that I'd have me an office in there. So I set aside a room about 12 by 12, put a door in it because you can hear that equipment. I went to Walmart and I bought a phone and fax machine. This is before the internet. I had a partner that gave me a little desk, probably $5 desk. And I already had the books, and I bought that phone with a built-in fax machine because I had to have a separate line for my cleaners. And I would write out things of the day. And the girl worked at the bank with me. She'd come by, and she's a widow, and she'd come by and get them, take them home at night and type them. And I'd fax them out the next day, and I started making money because I bought a book for about $275 that lists all the publishers all over the world. And I would go through it and I'd write a few of them. I'm Don Green, CEO of Napoleon Hill Foundation. We have books by Napoleon Hill and so forth. If you have an interest, and I would do that and make contacts with them. And a lot of them I didn't hear from, but a lot of them I did, and started making tons of money. The board couldn't believe it because they didn't publish in foreign countries. They had one publisher, and he came over here and did business with Mr. Stone. So they had a belief that the foreign publisher wouldn't pay you. See, I don't feel like that way. Because I think I got a good judgment on people, because in those 18 years in finance, I never foreclosed on the first loan I made. Not one.
Not one?
Not one. I had people got behind, but I would ask them to come in. And I can remember a lot of them. I would set them up to come in on a Saturday when we weren't busy, and I'd go over their debts. And here you get in discussions. One of them was in particular. He said, if she would quit spending $20 or $25 every morning with the beauty shop, we might have something of it. And how much you spend on the golf course? One word led into another. And he said a cuss word. I bet I'm not the only ones behind. I said, I bet you the only one needs to worry about, because if everybody on your block gets set out, he ain't gonna help you none. I said, is it me or does company? I said, your butt's the one's gonna get set out. You got three choices. You can pay it up to date, I'll leave you alone. You can do nothing, and I'm going to sell it. I said, or I'll work with you till you catch it up. You pay me a payment and pay part on the arrears, and I'll work with you. Now, the choice is yours. But one of them three things are going to happen. If you do what you've been doing, which is nothing, I'm going to sell it. And sometimes that's what they had to understand. But I was willing to work with them and give them some time if they were putting out the efforts between jobs or whatever. Because it's never pleasant to have to foreclose on a piece of property. But when I took the bank,
as your national treasure.
well, I just didn't enjoy it. But now really I'm at the point where it's embarrassing. My memory's fairly good, but a lot of the bankers I remember, a particular guy come up not long ago, and he said, Don, I never will thank you for the house. And my wife said, let's go down there, and she said, you're wasting our time. He's not going to loan us money to buy that house. It needs repairs, this, and this. And he said, you let us have it. He said, have you ever been by the house. Oh yeah, I know where your house is. I go right back going to my only sister's house. He said, George, stop one day. We tell me what all he's done. And they go out of the way to speak to me or something like that. But a lot of them I remember, but a lot of them I don't. I mean, my sister at lunch one day, my only sister, she said, Dawn, you can't believe the people comes up to say is, your brother really helped me out. Your brother really helped me out. And she said, a lot of times I don't even know him. But
Oh, your legacy lives on already. Wow.
well,
So-
I think we can do good without dying. I think you can do good while you're still here. You know, they say that's the reason I wrote the book. They say he left a legacy. No, that's not the right word. It should be living a legacy. You should see the results of what you're doing while you're still here. And
Yeah.
you can't do everything. You can't do everything, but you can do something. And what your talents and your is, you can't. But them that you do make a difference in, it makes a large difference. And there's so many stories. It's just unbelievable. And because that's the reason that little prayer on my table where I have my cereal in the morning, oatmeal, it just says, God, show me someone I can help today. In Jesus' name, amen. And before I leave here today, I'll ask myself, have I done anything? And I'll think of somebody I can send a book to, a card or something before I leave the office. So that day was your day, I guess.
Yes, I guess so. I'm so blessed. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
But we was talking a little bit about how Hill changed, because during the Depression, what if you don't have any money, what are you going to think about? You know, it's like you think about money. But then he realized that just money is not it. His last book he wrote before he died was Grow Rich with Peace of Mind. It's not that popular. It's not Think and Grow Rich, but he didn't lease money as the first, because he realized that there's other things besides money that's important. So in other words, he matured. And he matured more, seeing that he could make a difference in other people's lives. And there was these other things that contribute to living a good life, just besides a bunch of money. Because if his money was your only objection, just go out and get you a job selling drugs. If you didn't get caught, you'd probably piled a lot of money real quick. And so while it is important, I with Zig Ziglar, December 2003, I remember it. They framed our picture and they said it to me, God loves you, Dawn, I do too. But he said, be careful about people that you're around. It says money's not important. He said, don't listen to them. He said, they'll lie about anything. Money is important. It ranks right up next to oxygen. You can't live without it. I mean, you could, but I think the interesting thing about money, and I'll put some of my friends in, we can have money, which is wonderful. We can have money, but when the money's got us, then we're miserable because we never got enough. You know, we can sit there and thinking, Godly, why ain't I got money like Bill Gates or Elon Musk? Get over it. It's probably not going to happen. You know, just be thankful for what you got and what you can do with what you've got. It's simply a tool, and that's all it is. And the same thing that buys drug money can be sent for research at St. Jude's Hospital or your church or your school. And we never discussed it. I think I wrote. I did a book called Millionaire Mindset. Last time I looked, I think it had 70 some ratings. It's a small book. It's Millionaire Mindset, and in it I wrote about there's only 4 uses of money, and I've told us many times. Nobody questioned, and there's only 4 uses of money. God knows if somebody finds another use, I'd love to hear it. But there's only 4 uses of money, and you can think all you want and read everything you want to read. 4 uses of money. First one is food, clothing, and shelter. President Eisenhower said, if all you get out of life is food, clothing, and shelters, that's what we give people in prison. They get food, clothing, and shelter. That's not much of a life. That's the first use of money, those food, clothing, and shelter. They're necessities. It's hard to live without them. And that's the first use of it. The second use of money is preparing ourselves for life. We got to put something back, because I don't know, when you get 80 or 90, or maybe, I don't know, 90 or 95, I might not be able to do this. I don't know. I'm only 82. I've not had my 83rd birthday yet. So I don't know, but the second use is you should be putting some money back. And of course, people thinking that when they get on Social Security, well, Social Security, well, you won't starve there, but you won't lead to what I call the third number 3. So you take care of 1, food, clothing, shelter. 2, you take care of putting money back systematically. And I look at it like this: every dollar you make, part of it's yours to keep. And that makes all the difference in the world. And of course, people tell themselves, well, when I get the next raise, I'll start. That's a bit of a lie. They telling yourself is today's the day to start, not next week or next 3 months. You got to start making a difference. That's the second use of money. And the third one, I call it's a good life. It's just say Ert and Jay and Cynthia and Don, we all take off and travel, whatever. It takes money. I call it leading a good life. You can call it what you want to, but the fine clothes. If you're so desire travel, the better food and so forth. You come home and your spouse says, let's go down to that new restaurant they opened up. Everybody's just bragging. So we ain't got no money till we get our check. And we have to wait till the first of the month. That's not leading what I call a good life. Now we talk about the 4 uses. The first one was food, clothing, and shelter. Second, put money away when you're not able to work, health-wise, age, whatever. I mean, like them guys working in coal mines. There's not no 90-year-old coal miners. They got to have something. Other people work physical labor. I mean, it takes a toll on the body. So that's the pace of leading a good life. And then the fourth one, we took care of 1, 2, and 3, and we still got money. And then we can really make a difference in other people's lives of our own choosing. We don't have to, but you've took care of 1, 2, and 3. You still got money. You can help your grandchildren. You can help your college. You can help your church. You can help St. Jude's. Ever what your passion is to make a difference is. And most people never get to number 4. You know why? They skip number 2. And I used the Victor Hugo's quote from 120 years ago. He said, it's not that people were planning to fail. They simply failed to plan. And that sums it up pretty well. And then they get to their later years, like I said, they start saying, ain't no opportunity today. Ain't nothing decent out there. Or make all these excuses. And excuses is like going out on your front porch and sitting in a rocking chair all day. It may feel good, but it's not going to take you nowhere. It's not going to take you nowhere.
Nope. Eric says he's heard from Dean and Tony, if someone says money isn't important, they haven't given enough away. Not a good one. If someone says money isn't good enough, isn't important, then they haven't given enough away.
I guess people will say anything about it, but Mark Twain is all kinds of jokes. Mark Twain said he was opposed to these rich people, but just don't offer me their money. In other words, he'd gladly accept it, but don't offer it. Don't offer it to them. And these people, they'll make excuses such saying, we may be poor, but we're honest. That ain't got nothing to do with it. My little girl was little, and we had no money. I would have stole food for her before I let her went hungry. So it's a lot easier to be honest. If you got a little money that you ain't tempted to steal food and so forth, you got a place to lay down and all. I think it's so much more comfortable with a little bit of money. I was on a show a couple months ago, and I don't even remember the guy's name, but they could call in and ask questions. And the guy said, why would anybody want a bunch of money for? And I felt like saying, what's a stupid question? I said, money's just a tool to use for whatever. But I said, I don't know anybody out there. Why do people play the lottery for? They're looking for something for nothing, and it's the money they're looking for. It's the money they're looking for. Only thing is, they're not willing to pay the price. They think it's an easy solution. It's just to put money down and buy. Not very good odds. What won so many billion. I mean, somebody's going to win it, but I would never invest in a stock that the chances of progressing and being worthwhile was no better than that. Wouldn't seem very smart to me.
So how do you balance your professional life and your fun life, your personal life? What do you do for fun? Seems to me like all you do is work. But I think your work is your joy, your love. So of course it makes perfect sense.
Of course I could. I have lots and lots of friends, and of course I travel quite a bit, and I'm involved in other things outside of the foundation. that I still have some businesses. I sold the dollar store and the cable TV and the spring water and whatever. I still got some real estate and the pizza places. I just rent them. Had them for 20 years. But I enjoy it. I don't work all the time. I mean, like a lot of Saturdays, either my daughter or my brother, we take off to Boiling Rock, which is the neatest little town, I think, in the country. It's a resort area in North Carolina, about a 2-hour drive. They have some fantastic men and women's clothing shops that I like to visit. Grandfather Mountain's the highest peak. It's a national park. It's the highest peak east of the Mississippi. My great uncle worked till he's in his 90s. He worked as a maintenance person, and the animals are in their natural surrounding. You see the deer and the bear. They're hemmed in by rocks and so forth, but they're not pinned up or anything. And it's absolutely beautiful. And they have a swinging bridge between two rocks. It's over a mile high. It's called a mile high swinging bridge, and it just is the scenery just out of this world. And you don't spend a few hours driving down the Blue Ridge Parkway. No traffic, no trucks on it. If you want something, you have to take an exit and go visit some little town or nothing. There's nothing commercial on it, and the scenery just out of this world. So there's a lot of things that can do for enjoyment.
Yeah, you introduced me to a cool gentleman that sang when I was there. What do you remember his name? He played the guitar and sang and told stories about the coal mine.
Oh yeah, that's my friend Tim. Yeah, he's coming out tomorrow to take some pictures of some of my art. I got some art that he authenticated.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Well, tell him I said hi. I have his music. I enjoy it.
Yeah. He's won all kinds of awards, state and national. But I tried to help him out. He's went through chemo 4 times, and he's just, but his spirits is just happy. I swear, I believe he don't weigh 100 pounds, but he's you would never know it, But we all get a place where every day's a blessing.
What are you going to do for the next 5-10 years, Don?
Well, doing what I'm doing, except I have bigger goals and all. I want to reach a lot more.
Yeah, like what's your next thing you're going to do? You got this book you're working on, this manuscript, so that's going to come out. What else you got?
Well, I've got one coming out in September called. I gave it a burning desire, but they've changed it to path to personal purpose. It's out in September, and then I got another one coming out in December. The titles always get changed. Like this one right here, they hired me to write that one, and the title of it was Achieving Success with Action, because action is mentioned in Think Rich 77 times. But they wanted this one the title. Well, they paid me in advance, so I didn't have that kind of ego on the thing. It's the book Millionaire Mindset, they give it a title originally, was More Than a Millionaire. And being a person other than just have money, well, time I got ready to do it, they called me and says that, can they change it to, I said, you guys done pay me. I don't care what you call it. Because so they come out with Millionaire Mindset. So that often happens. But I'm really, really excited. I'm always get excited if the next one's the best one I'm doing. And honestly, I think the one I'm working on, it's on vision. I think it could be the most important piece I've ever written, because people don't understand it. There's a book by the Indian, I can't even say the name, Creative Visualization. I used it when I was teaching in class. I taught this material 11 or 12 times back at starting in the 90s. It's been taught more than 25 years. And tomorrow I'm going into class and speak to it's a fall class that's just started. They always want me to, I good know as anything, I'm gonna get a call or you're gonna come by and say, so anyway, you could come over and speak to the class. So I said yes. And so I will be there at 12:30 tomorrow to
Amazing.
talk to those students. But it's on vision, just I want the young people to visualize what they could achieve in life and actually see themselves. Don't just wish for something other or think about something other, but actually, and we think in pictures, and that's the reason I think it's so important. We remember something. If I said, let's go down our, and I don't eat steak, but let's say we're going down to our Rue Steakhouse and get a big steak. You can visualize, you can see that steak, pink or how you like it, kicked in the center, whatever. We actually think in pictures. And that's the reason. One of those sections I've been writing on is on a vision board on how important that is to have something other up where you see. I mean, put the picture of the gold Rolex when you're making $1.50 an hour. Up where you see it every day when you shave. And pick a picture of a black Mercedes when you're driving an old 56 Chevrolet that's throwing oil out the back, and you're making $1.15 an hour, and you're wanting to be a millionaire. It's kind of funny in a sense, but it's important to establish a vision. And some of them is simply absolutely amazing. I was working in Tennessee, and we had a nice house, and the guy hard in the bank, it wasn't nothing over and over. The coal boom was a boom on the traffic, housing, decent housing, it wasn't nothing over. So he built townhouses, and I bought a townhouse, so I need something to move into rather than that drive. And but then we got to thinking about a house. We wanted a house, and we saw an ad in a Better Homes and Garden. It was for Olympic stain paint on the back, and it was this 2-story house made out of cedar. Well, we both liked it. It had a porch up top stairs off the bedroom. You go out on the porch. That was the only bedroom access to it. And it had a front porch on both of them under roof, and made out of cedar, Canadian cedar. And so we both liked it. So I contacted the paint company in Olympia, Washington. It's Olympia Stain Paint. And they said the house was in Brandon Mill, Virginia, which is outside of Richmond. So within a matter of days, the president of the bank said, Don, they're having a meeting of the Federal Reserve in Richmond, and I would like for you to go. Would you like to go? Yeah. He said, Robert Black, who was Federal Reserve governor, he's speaking on the economy and so forth, and said, I think it would be good to attend it. So I took my wife with me, and we stopped at Brandon Mill. We had the directions. That's before GP, yes, but we stopped there and we saw the house, and the guy gave me a card that was selling the houses. He gave me a card. It was the guy that did the blueprint and all, and I got in touch with him, bought the blueprint, and we built the house. And that was in 1976, and I'm still living in it today.
Love it. That's fantastic.
But it all come about. But we had that picture on our closet when you open up a closet to get out your bath towels, or you saw that picture that added. So it's so odd. A few years ago, I bought my grandson a townhouse in Charlotte, North Carolina when he graduated from college. He didn't want me to. He never took nothing, but I convinced him. But anyway, my daughter is a interior decorator, CPA, and all kinds of businesses things. And she went down there and she fixed it up for a boy, okay? Young man. For example, it had an office in it. She had things that was definitely a boy. I mean, she had like tables made out of golf clubs, and it was a man's house. And so one of his friends said, RJ, who decorated your place? He said, my mom did. And he said, well, I got a friend at the Better Homes and Garden, and I was telling them they love to come and see it. And he said, I'm not showing it to them. He said, Mom wants to come down here. I don't want it to be no magazine. So she made arrangements. She went down there 2 days, and I think she got 6 or 8 pages in Better Homes and Gardens, and she starts getting calls from everywhere. She's already busy, so it's odd how things come about. If we can put that picture in our mind of what we really want, and have something there, a vision board or something that kind of constantly reminds you of something other. That's the reason that's the reason the goals who write them down. It's a contract with themselves. I give a talk when I was president of the Chamber of Commerce, and I never will forget this girl, school teacher. Her name was Geraldine. She come up to me and she said, Mr. Green, she said, I do my goals at the first year, and I just don't write them down so I can remember them. I said, yeah, we call them dreams. I said, it becomes, when you write it down, it's a contract. Cynthia says, this is what I'm going to do, and this is the date I'm going to do it by. And we might not get it done when we said, but at least we made a contract with ourselves, telling ourselves, this is what I'm going to do, and then we'll figure out how to do it is. If it's not enough important to write it down, I had a guy exchange some emails with him some years ago, and he said, in fact, I'll use the verse, and he said, it's not necessary to have goals to write them down. I said, well, yeah, that's your belief, ever what. So one day on the verse of the day in the guidepost, which I've always followed, it had a verse, I can't say it's Hanukkah, Hakum or something other. Anyway, it's verse 2:2, and it says, if you have a vision, write it down and make it plain. And I didn't even try to send it to him, and he sent me a deck of tests. Well, I guess you won that one, and I never did hear nothing else from him. But just think, if something is important you want to, it takes a simple thing to sit down and write a few lines down on a piece of paper, or I'd prefer a 3x5 card because I wore a bake suit every day, and I put my cards inside. And if I had a moment of red light or waiting on somebody at lunch or something, I'd pull it out and I'd say, God darn, this is always you said you're just going to do this. You haven't done nothing about it. It was a reminder that I need to take the next step on it, what I was the goals I was working on, and I firmly believe in it.
Well, we're all going to go home and make our vision boards if we don't have them up already. So how many books did you vision? How many books have you published since you took over the Napoleon Hill Foundation?
They had
a number?
Oh yeah, not an exact number. We had 16 when I started. That's what's in the minutes. It's way more than 100.
Woo! Look at you go.
We did 11 last year. I don't remember we've done this year, but quite a few. Some of them I write from scratch. Most of them were composed from Napoleon Hill's material, his speeches or articles or something they wrote. But what I do is like on the vision thing. I've written 7,500 words. I brought to Zane in longhand. He's typed out 7,500 words, and I'll write another section. But I'll write on some different things. I'll write a vision board and goals and so forth. Different, and if I get enough on them, it will be a chapter, and I'll put them together, and I'll probably end up with. That looks like probably end up with 10 or 12 chapters, and I'll tell some stories. I'll tell some stories that things that's happened, not just necessarily about me, but I read one as a book published in 1912. Which means it's public domain, and they told a story of this little girl, and she's from a real poor family, and she had a vision or a dream or what you want to call it, imagination of being able to go off to college. And the college was a big old brick buildings and had big old vines growing up on the buildings. Well, the Catholic Church took a liking to her. She finished high school. They sent her to the college. She'd never been over. And when she got there, here it was, a big old brick buildings and those vines growing up on it, just like she seen. Some things we can't explain. Mr. Stone, our chairman, he sponsored a study in psychic phenomena. He's a Dr. Ryan, who was a professor at Duke, and W. Clement Stone did a book which I have the rights to, and I published it through Gildan. It's not sold that well, but it's interesting. He wrote it with Norma Jean Browning. She was a writer for the Chicago Tribune, and it's the other side of the mind, and that's kind of what it's about, stories. And one of the stories you'd find interesting, one of them is about the firewalkers, and that originated in Fuji Islands. Of course, you know our friend Tony Robbins does that, and of course he's got a place in Fuji Islands. But
Wyatt Woodsmall's on. Wyatt Woodsmall was one of the teachers of Tony Robbins back in the day.
Yeah,
Wyatt, well, yes. And Yulton's here, who was one of your was at Wise, Virginia with us in July 20th, and he's helping lead a group and teaching us youngsters to get ready for the big test on September 7th.
Well, it seems that the boys in Fuji, when they got 13, 14, or 15, it was a way of proving their manhood that they walk on these firewalls and not as far as things and not get burned. But there is a little bit more to it than that. One of them is that you don't get scared and stop. You've got to keep moving. But the other one is they create the fire by using wood, and wood doesn't burn as hard as hot as charcoal. So it's not near as apt to you. But even Tony Robbins, they've had people get burnt because they kind of, I guess you call it freeze or whatever, because it's necessary to keep moving on the thing. And I don't know if you call it a trick or whatever, but the mind does have a part in it, and not freezing up or what you want to call it, get out there and panic and not do nothing. You got to make a pass through there and keep it moving. But there's some interesting stories. One of them, it's on my shelf back there. As I said with Gildan, it's one of them was a little store. The girl in the place in France, Louvres or something like that, supposedly a holy place. This little girl maybe was 10 years old or something, and suppose she had a vision of Christ come to her or something like that. A lot of the churches accept it, and they have a thing that people go there every year to do it and all. And I'm not saying it's true or it's not true, but there's a lot of things that we're not able to understand. That like the little girl vision and that thing. And then it come about. So, if we want to have visions and imaginations and so forth, we want to concentrate on good things, not imagine ourselves broke or imagine ourselves homeless or whatever. And imagination it's so much tied to the vision and so forth. And I got a quote from Albert Einstein. He said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." That's a big statement, because I think that's a misconception about colleges. And I've been on the board here for 20 some years. They kind of teach you the material to memorize it, give it back to them. You get so many errors, you get a piece of paper. But the application, what's important is what I tell you, is it going to read a book? It's mine or somebody else. Read a book is you should be saying, what does this mean to me? Where can I use this and so forth? Make notes in the margin. Now, if you want to read a novel and find out if the boy got the girl or the uncle died and left the money, that's fine to read a novel and find out what happened. But the difference, and I say it over and over again, reading books like what we deal in and all is, you read them things and we write our own story. We can write our own ending to our stories. And whereas on them others, a novel or one of them high suspense things, you have to read the last page or two to find out what really happened. But we can determine the endings in our life by what we learn and what we apply, what we do.
If you had the power to change one thing in the world, what would it be? And why?
Love,
sweet love.
Yeah, love one another. That's the reason we're here. He wrote a piece many years ago on intolerance, and I've done it. It's frameable. It basically says he looks forward to the day when we don't have Jews or Gentiles or Catholics or people of colored skin, and we simply reach a stage where we know each other as brothers and sisters. And he said, and that live the life of eternity when we ever reach that stage. So that would be good. And I love it. And it starts, and I don't mean a boost in their ego or anything, but I mean a healthy love for oneself. You can't love someone else till you love yourself. I have a little bit of internal dissatisfaction, meaning I always know I can do it a little bit better, but I like myself. And I think that's one of the reasons of dress and clothes. I'm teaching a class, and that's one of the things. And I had a little girl sitting there in little tight shorts on the front. Well, Professor Green, if you know what you're doing, your dress shouldn't make a difference if you know your job. I said, okay, that's a good comment. Let me ask you a question. Just say that school's just now starting. Just imagine that you've been watching a quarterback for 6 weeks. Ever since you've been here, you've been watching. If he calls you up for a date, are you going to clean up? Oh yeah, I want to make a good impression on him. Oh, why would you want to make a good impression for on other people? You're a bankrupt, you're going to go borrow money or get a job from. And she said, well, I got it, but since it's not fair, I said, that's another lesson. We don't deal with what we think is fair in life. We deal with reality. I told her about a study of a college in or school out in California. They filmed this teacher, unbeknownst to her, teaching the little kindergarten kids, and she didn't know it. And it was shown without a doubt. She treated those little kids better that was dressed better. Yeah, that's not fair, but it's reality. If you and I go to the restaurant and we're dressed out, that young kids in there working, most of them going to school, they said, man, that's a good looking couple. They're going to be good tippers. And you'll get better service. You'll get better service. And I mean, that's a known fact. And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you not have all the odds on your favor? I mean, you don't much like yourself if you don't take a bath and put on clean clothes. And I don't, everybody can't afford expensive clothes, but you can clean up. You can have your hair done. You can wear. I mean, I know. I can see people coming out of the post office, and I will guarantee you they ain't had a shower this month, And how can they love someone else if they don't love themselves enough to clean up and take care of themselves?
Well, we love you, Don Green. We do.
Well,
You're a national treasure. Oh, does anyone have any questions for Don Green? There's so much there. It's just like mind-boggling. I want to see everyone's vision boards. I want to make sure that you follow up on Don. We can put them in the Facebook group and we can show them to Don, and you can do a little, like he said, you could write your book. You could write your book based on what Don just told you. You do your vision board, you have your goals, you write the stories around it, you see who's doing it. You go, this is what I did, this worked, this didn't work. Chapter, and pretty soon you'll be going to Don saying, I followed the principles of Napoleon Hill, and here's my book. How do I publish it?
And the main thing
is country, any language.
But and I sprinkle them throughout it through the book that somewhere relates to it. I call them breakpoints. That in some ways related to that. People, comments. Well, like on chapter 2, thinking, person has complete control over one thing. That's the power of one's thoughts, Napoleon Hill. I try to put comments in throughout the books that has something other to add some meanings. Okay.
And we have Justin Benson on too. He just wrote a book on the inner circle. I got it right here. I picked it up from our last one. He'll be on one of our shows. And
yeah, I got that.
Yeah, you got it?
Yeah, I've already got it.
Me too, but I don't have it signed yet. My Don Green books are signed, Justin Benton. What's the best piece of advice you ever got, Don? Close us out with that.
Hard work never kill nobody. From my mother. Because if we had attention to complain, my dad worked in the coal mines, and I mean, this is cruel. I'll shut up. But I was about 8 years old, and I wanted to join the Scouts, and the uniform back then was $8. I told my mom I would not have asked my daddy. I asked my mother. I had $8, and I would join the Boy Scouts. Oh, honey, we can't waste your daddy's money. He crawls around that old mines. He might get hurt or might get killed. We wouldn't have no money at all. Said, once you go mow your uncle's yard, said, don't he give you a quarter every time you mow it? He ain't got no boys, he just got them 3 girls. I said, yeah. So I worked and I saved money and I picked up pot balls, penny a piece, and I got more than $8. Guess what? I didn't want to join the Scouts no more because I worked the money. I learned money. So I owned Walmart. I got stock in Walmart. I have for a long time, and I got the Walmart Community Award one year for community service. And but if you go into Walmart, they got them kids in there. They're putting money in them machines, bubble gum, what they are. But you can bet your life that them kids didn't earn that money. their parent or grandma give it to them, and it has no meaning to them. Initially, mine was out of necessity. I made $3 when I was 5 years old. I was as happy as selling a piece of land to Walmart for $2 million, because I know I made that $3. I made that $3, and I can recall it like it was yesterday. I didn't even have a billfold. Dad showed me the miners. They searched the wood for ginseng. That's a root. Back in Manion is $20 a pound. I think it's $200 or $300 now. But $20 was a lot more than they made in 2 days' work if it got a pound. But he taught me how to a herb called mayapple. It grew around the little creeks that grew up, I don't know, 18 inches high, I guess. And I think it brought about 20 cents a pound or something like that. And he showed me, gave me a little hole to how to dig it, wash the mud off of it, and then you had to dry it. You had to dry it, and then you took it. And I went with him to the herb place, and I remember when he got paid and all, he said, "Here's what your mayapple brought." He gave me $3. Man, I was 5 years old. It's before I started school. I was tickled to death. I counted that $3. I couldn't count. I counted that $3 probably 1,000 times, and I just learned to make money out of necessity, and it just stuck with me.
It's true. I remember babysitting, and I got 50 cents an hour, and we were living in Biloxi, Mississippi at the time. And I bought 2 maxi skirts, and I took my family to the root beer stand where they come up and they put the tray on, and you had that cold A&W root beer, I think it was called. And I thought I was a billionaire. I was so proud and happy to take my family out to dinner in my new maxi skirt. It was such an amazing feeling.
When I was in high school, the kids, some of them, dad's in business, the coal business, and they were driving Corvettes and Thunderbirds when they first come out in the mid-50s. And me, I had $300. I bought a 1936 Ford from this widow woman who couldn't drive. It was a one owner. That was the nicest car on earth because it's mine. It had little side windows in it. You could pull them down, and I'd take the little girl to the drive-in theaters. And to see who was in the car, you had to walk around to the hood and look in, because you couldn't see nothing beside, and the back glass was just a little small side glass. So if you want to know who was in that car was on, you had to go around the windshield and look back through. But that was, I was so tickled that car, because you know what? I was the winner. I earned it. It was mine.
That's fantastic. And you take good care of your stuff, and you always look so dapper. It does. First impressions make a difference. Plus, you know what? We got dressed up for each other today, and it just makes you feel good. It gives you a little and a little swagger in your step, and you walk in, and if it's one of those things. You get up in the morning, you take your shower, you brush your teeth, you make your bed, and you are set for the day. It's always a winning day.
Well, did you watch the rap star Jeezy? You go to Jeezy, the rap star, Good Morning America. He's on YouTube. And you'll see him holding up a certificate I sent to him. He said, "Man, I like this." But he's a rap star, but he read Think and Grow Rich. And Monday he was on the Today Show. You can look at the Today Show on it. His name is Jeezy Jenkins. They tell me he's the hottest rap star out there. He's been around a long time, but he's a follower. He started the Today Show off right off the bat, telling him, "I read a book, Think and Grow Rich." So you'll
Love it. I have to catch that. I have a rapper in Baltimore. I have to make sure he gets Think and Go Rich and does the same thing. That is fantastic. Oh my goodness. You have so many wonderful stories. We will have to get together and do this again. Does anyone have a quick question before he goes? I know Justin Benton wants us to go to funnel hacking live. I don't think I'm going to make that one, Justin. You'll have to figure out another way to sign your book, because I already got my Don Green book signed. Yes, I do. And I can't wait for the next one in December. And the next one, what did you say? September and December. Because he is rocking. And how old did you say you were, Don? And I swear he's just getting started.
my age.
Yeah.
I'm only 82.
Yeah.
I'll see my friend Justin. I'll be in Orlando on September 27th, 28th, and 29th with he and Russell Brunson and friends. He asked me to say a few words, and he has 5,000 people that pay $9.97 to attend a 3-day event. But I think they have all kinds of speakers, people from marketing, and people's been very successful. But I think it makes 9 years it's sold out. So he asked me to consider. So I'm going to be speaking on the 28th. It'll be fun.
You are a national treasure, and we are so thankful that you were on our show today. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts, and it is a pleasure, and I can't wait to see you again. Big virtual hug, Don Green. Love you.
Love you too. Thanks for having me on.
And we have our little chat. We go, you are amazing. I am amazing. We are amazing. All together now. You are amazing.
Gee,
I am amazing.
I'm amazing.
We are
We
amazing.
are amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be looking for your vision board. And if you haven't done it yet, even if you've had, it's time to reread it. I'm getting ready to reread it because I'm getting ready to take that big old test. And I want to make sure that I can rattle off those principles just as well as Don Green did for us today. I think everyone needs to go back and hear this again. And all those books he mentioned, are they on your bookshelf? I have a few of them, but I have a few more to pick up because
And the reason,
this is how you keep working like you were 21 when you're 82.
Yeah, and the reason to read it more than once, the material's not changed, but we have. We've read other books, we've listened to other people's interviews, other conversations, and so forth. We've been affected by the sources. So we will interpret it, no doubt, in a different manner if we read it 20 years ago and we read it today. J.B. Hill said that. He said he did. He read it in his Marine Corps. He got it, and he said, "Oh, now I know what my grandfather was trying to tell me."
Well, tell JB I said hi. I want to hook up with his daughter. And I was going to say something, went out of my mind. Anyway, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
I know what I was going to say. He's going to have the replay. Eric Rodriguez, the man behind the scenes, is going to have the replay on tonight so you can catch it. In case you missed this, or in case you missed a word, or in case you didn't get something written down, or in case you didn't get the name of that rapper, go listen to it again, like it, share it, and make sure that you pass this on to your children. Start your legacy right now.